Maybe you've heard of freelancers who make part-time income doing copywriting for various clients, and maybe many of us assume there's not a lot of money to be made via copywriting nowadays. Well, today's guest has sold over $1 billion worth of products online solely through his copywriting talent, and we're going to meet him after this. MJ Wolf here, and
welcome to the Wolf Den.
So we've got Chloe modeling your product.
Yo, MJ, what's up, man?
Hey, MJ.
You are in the Wolf Den.
So excited to be in the Wolf Den.
Hosted by MJ Wolf.
With me today is a man who has used words to sell over $1 billion worth of products online. He's written copy for online businesses including VShred and Golden Hippo, and helped capture the voice of folks like Sir Nick Faldo, Mike Tyson, Tommy Chong, Dr. Stephen Gundry, Tony Horton, and more through his writing. He's also an entrepreneur who has founded or co-founded 9 different businesses that have scaled to at least 7 figures, with several of those businesses reaching the 8 or 9 figure mark. His name is Stefan Georgi. Stefan, welcome to the show. You are officially in the Wolf Den.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and I'm glad to be in the den. I'm excited.
Well, tell me, so how did you first discover the world of copywriting? And I've heard this story involves a poker table in Las Vegas, so I'm sure my viewers want to hear more.
For sure. So back in 2011, I was working at a place called the Outdoor School in Marble Falls, Texas. And I was essentially an outdoor ed instructor, making $200 a week, living in a double wide trailer with a roommate and 5 trailer mates. They gave me camp food during the week, so I was able to kind of eat this camp food, like pudding and peanut butter jelly sandwiches. But I was loving life. And I thought, hey, this might be what I do for the next several years of my life. I'd sort of been all over the place before that. But then my dad got diagnosed with cancer very suddenly in May of 2011. So I ended up going back home to San Diego, where I grew up, to be with him and my mom and kind of help out. He passed away in October of 2011, which was obviously a really difficult time. And 2 months after that, or really a month and a half after that, in December of 2011, I decided to go to Las Vegas to kind of blow off steam and decompress and do something for myself. And while I was there, I was at a poker table, and this woman walked into the poker room, and I joked to the table, wow, I hope she gets seated at our table, because if you've ever played poker, you don't get to just walk in and walk up to a table. You see a host. The host kind of looks at the tables, what's open. They try to keep them balanced. And we were at Caesar's Palace, which at the time, poker was still pretty booming. So there's like 30, 40 tables, but she did get seated at our table. And somebody asked her, what do you do for a living? And she said, I'm a writer. And I wanted to talk to her. So I said, oh cool. Hey, what kind of writer? And she said, I'm a copywriter. And I went, wow, that's amazing. Copywriting. How cool. And then I pulled out my whatever I had at the time, maybe an iPhone 1. And under the table, I Googled or searched, like, what's a copywriter? Because I had no idea. But that was my very first introduction to copywriting, was at that poker table.
And then you went on to pursue that. And what was your very first copywriting pursuit?
Yeah, so after that, I took a job in South Florida, and I'd never been good at holding jobs, really. But I was like, I'll try it out. The same girl, came to visit me, and then for a weekend, it was the weekend that the Giants won the Super Bowl for the second time. And at the end of the weekend, I was supposed to take her to the airport. I said, hey, I don't want you to leave. She said, I don't want to leave either. So she didn't. So we started living together. And I was doing this outside sales job. I'm driving around the hot Florida sun, making $200 a day, which was pretty good money for me at that point in my life. But I would come home kind of exhausted, and she'd be in her underwear drinking a beer, and she made like $1,000 in the same day, right? And I'm like, hey, eventually I was like, I want to do what you're doing. Do you think I could be a copywriter? And she said, yeah, probably. So I'm like, all right, let me try it out. So I basically wrote a sales letter that was basically like an ad, like a classified type of ad, selling myself as a copywriter, and I posted it on this forum called Warrior Forum, which was a popular marketing forum at that time. And I said, hey, if you want to hire me, I'm $147, and here's a PayPal link. And I went to bed, and I woke up the next day, and I had $296 or $298 in my PayPal account from two people who had hired me. And the moment that happened, it was like I describe it to this still that it feels like I broke out of jail and then won the lottery the next day. Like that feeling of just like freedom and excitement and oh my God, this is possible. And so within a couple months, I quit that corporate job and just went in full time on copywriting.
So did you go on full time on your own, like doing it as a freelancer, or did you actually work for any kind of agency?
So I did it on my own as a freelancer. I was using the place called Warrior Forum. I was also using Upwork. At the time, it was Elance. And to be honest, at the beginning, I liked copywriting, but I was just trying to make money to where I didn't have to have a job again. So on Elance, which is now Upwork, I would do pretty much anything you can imagine, right? I would build WordPress websites, which I had no idea how to do it, but clients would ask me, they might hire me to write some emails and I do a good job, and they'd say, hey, do you know how to build a website? And I'd be like, yeah, for sure. I definitely know how. And I'd Google, how to build a website, I would do it. Or, help with Facebook ads or SEO, or I wrote people's college papers for them. I remember I wrote one kid's like art history thesis or something like that. And morals aside, it was whatever I could do to take the money and pay my rent and not have to go back. So it wasn't just copywriting. It was, but I'm actually really thankful for that because I was exposed to so many different types of businesses. Because you'll hear people who want to go into freelancing and especially freelance copywriting, and they're told to niche down, pick a niche. And I actually hate that advice. I think early on, be exposed to as much stuff as possible. So I wrote for 3PL logistics companies. I worked for IT and tech companies. I wrote for health and wellness companies. The whole gambit. And I learned about these businesses, and I learned different styles of writing, and then I really learned how their businesses worked, and on the marketing side, it wasn't like I wasn't making a ton of money. I'd make a couple $1,000s a month, enough to pay my rent most of the time. A couple times I had to pawn some stuff, but but it was such a great education. And then later on, in 2014, I ended up kind of working full time with a client who was starting a new endeavor, and I wasn't an employee, but I essentially was a dedicated writer for them and just writing a really high volume of infomercial scripts. Essentially, they're online infomercials. And that was really incredible. They went from 0 to 100 million in a single year off those scripts. The copy, but also because they knew what they were doing, which really helps, right? That's the other secret to selling $1 billion worth of stuff is work with clients who are really good at selling stuff once you give them the copy. But I learned a ton with those guys too, because then I was really learning about high level stuff about optimizing funnels and all these other types of things. But yeah, at the start it was just me doing whatever I could. I was drifting along the wind, just any job I could take, I was taking it.
Hey, I'm an actor, so I know about pawning stuff myself. Yeah. But once you had your success and you were really slammed, how many copywriting jobs were you getting a day or a week?
So for me, what I liked is I did a lot of more long format stuff. And I think for people early on, shorter format's actually better. So writing emails for companies or Facebook ads or YouTube ads, because there's a never ending need for that. But what was nice for me is with this company, I was writing a lot of, they're called video sales letters, but for people who don't know what that is, essentially they're infomercial scripts. And they did this blockbuster model where they were like, hey, if you do 4 of these video sales letters in a month, we'll pay you $1,000 per. If you do 8, we're gonna pay you $2,000 per. And if you can do 12, they'll pay you $4,000 per. So suddenly I'm like, and plus there's these other bonuses end write emails for us, and I basically could make $60,000 to $72,000 in a month, which I never made more than $10,000 in a month before, right? And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that. And what's crazy is you're not supposed to be able to do that. Lots of people, it takes them 2 months to write one infomercial, and I was doing one every 2 to 3 days. But I didn't know any better. I had the gift of ignorance. And the guy who was sort of my mentor of that company, I'd write something in a week and be like, hey, that's pretty good, right? And he'd be like, a week? You should be writing this in a day. And I didn't know any better. So I'm like, oh, I guess I should be writing this in a day. So I was just, all day long. But after that period, as I got a reputation and kind of became better known, I started to be able to command those higher fees where I could charge, ultimately by 2016, 17, $50,000 for one infomercial script. And then tell them that it would take 8 weeks to do it. And then because I was so fast, if I really needed money, or just wanted to make more money that month, I could take on 4 clients, and write basically one every 2 weeks or whatever it was, and make $200,000. So again, that only was because of my reputation, my skill set, and all that kind of stuff that I had developed. But for me, it never, at a high level, it becomes less about quantity and more about quality, and you can charge a lot more money. I mean, it's funny, right? I was writing sales letters for $147 or $149 in 2012, and then it's the same exact thing, sales letters, but now it's like 50,000, or today, I don't usually won't do one, but it's like 60 or 70,000, and it's kind of wild. It's the same thing. The pay is drastically different, but it comes with mastery and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the more you grow, the more you make, and you obviously have succeeded. Now, I've heard that you've switched your primary focus to something called Copy Accelerator Mastermind. Can you explain to my viewers what that is?
For sure. So, yeah, Copy Accelerator is a community that provides mentorship, training, and feedback to copywriters and business owners and marketers with really all aspects of their sales funnels. So a lot of what we'll do is we'll actually review different businesses' copy, but we'll also review their funnels and their economics of it, and sort of help them find wins. How do you increase your average order value or your lifetime value? What are ways to have better retention? Just all those sorts of things. And so members of it are able to submit copy. Myself and I have 2 partners now. We'll go through and basically audit funnels and review stuff and provide very in-depth feedback. And in addition to that, we have live events a couple times a year that have a couple hundred high-level business owners as well. And so yeah, it's really, I enjoy it because I get to see inside tons of businesses and really stay sharp. But also has a lot of impact because you help these companies go from 5 million to 20 million, or from 20 million to 100, whatever it is. It's like, I know the numbers are big for someone not used to this role, and honestly, it's crazy to me still. It's on some level, but you can have these huge leaps. Like I just helped a guy go from 5 to 20 million in like 3 phone calls, because basically, without getting too in the weeds on this, he had like a free plus shipping offer on the front end. So basically, hey, you get this physical item, it's like $5 shipping and handling, right? Buy that. Then he had an upsell. So after you bought that, I was like, hey, want to buy this like ebook for $37. Then he had a subscription program that you could try free for 15 days and then cancel or join. And he had another thing. And so essentially he was making about $20 on day 0, on the day that somebody would come in and every time he got a new customer, on average, he would make $20 for that new customer. But he was spending $40 on average to acquire that customer. So it's a huge gap, right? The only reason he could do it is because of that subscription component he had, because he had enough people over time that were on like a recurring, and it's a great program. They're sticking for a long time and everything. And so, but just going into that first upsell and being like, well, what if instead of the ebook, like they had this amazing like tea. It's like a supplement, but it's like an herbal tea. It has these really cool ingredients. So like, let's put that as the first like upsell. Let's do it as a they can buy 2, 4, or 6 units at a time. And essentially that increased the average order value from $20 to like $42 to $45. So now he's paying $40, but he's making $45. So he's actually making money instead of losing money for 3 months. And so suddenly he can, go from spending only be able to spend a little bit of money to acquire a customer each day because he can't go in the hole forever, to like essentially scaling to 1,000 plus people per day. It sounds so simple, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's little tweaks like that, because if the economics make sense, then you can really, you can scale quickly. So I really enjoy stuff like, it's fun to find like wins like that for people, When
you make these companies like blow up and they really increase their earnings, like I know a lot of NFL players, they have like incentive-based contracts. Like Patrick Mahomes throws 30 touchdowns, maybe he gets a certain bonus in his contract. Do you ever get rewarded, financially when you help them on top of your original fee? If you help them grow X amount, is there any kind of incentive-based, payout?
Yeah, it depends on the company, but definitely. For within my mastermind, you kind of just get it for the flat fee. So it's we had that at the beginning of the mastermind, and we went away from it, and now sort of rebuilding it, because to me it's such a no-brainer. I'm like, it's $2,700 a month. I'm not trying to pitch people who listen to this, but to me it's like, if you're a business doing 7 or 8 or 9 figures for $2,700 a month, if we go through your funnel and find stuff like that, like that's a no-brainer. But for a client, yeah, it can be a bonus. Like we've done it on revenue. We've done it on the amount of buyers per day, where like if we get to 500 buyers per day, you get this bonus. Obviously there's stuff like royalty deals and things of that nature too. And then sometimes we created a part of Copy Accelerator called CA Labs, where essentially my partners and I will work on funnels for businesses for way less money up front, but we get a percentage of like revenue, things like that too. So yeah, you can structure it a lot of ways, but it's fun. And one of the best parts for me, I've now had a couple times where people basically pay me a 6-figure amount up front, like just to basically have me on retainer. Like it's not for writing copy. They're like, I'm going to give you like $100,000, but like if I need, copy written for you, I'm first in line every time. And like I had a client do that. And so that's when I usually won't write copy anymore for clients. But for this guy, at a certain point, I'm going to have to be like, hey, all right, now you've gotten your money's worth because this guy's doing great. But it's kind of cool because that's sort of like almost like a signing bonus with an athlete, right? It's sort of interesting how that works.
Yeah. Now let's say like everyone's selling the same kind of product. It's not a unique product. Let's say it's like CBD oil. That's a big thing right now. CBD.
Right.
How is your copy or a highly experienced copywriter creating or selling a product that's not unique? How are they doing that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I look at there is challenging if it's really not unique. Because sometimes it's not. So sometimes it's just a commodity. But sometimes we can look into the process and figure out that it is more unique than people think. So with CBD, is it possible what does the manufacturing process look like? And it could be that even, say everyone's selling the same CBD, it's like private label CBD, but you go and look and you see that the manufacturer does like a cold press technology or a cold press process when they make it, but nobody's talking about it. And you're like, all right, well, now it's cold pressed CBD, right? Maybe it comes from organic hemp, but nobody's highlighting the organic component. Now it's cold pressed organic CBD, right? Maybe it's made not cold pressed. Maybe it's at a high temperature, and there's a reason for why that's important. Well, now it's like fire pressed or like fire extraction CBD. So you almost just start finding those little unique things that everyone else missed, and you turn what would just be part of the process into like an actual unique differentiator and an asset. And you can do that with almost anything. Think about like a fishing pole. I've thought about this before, where you're like, oh, it's a fishing pole, but it's like, well, maybe yours is made of titanium and something else, and other fishing poles are made of a different material. Or maybe they're all made from titanium, but like they don't talk about is how titanium is lighter than some other material. And so now you can talk about how this is lighter. And then you go, well, why does lighter matter? Well, if you do research, you might see that a lot of people who fish a lot, especially once they get into their 40s, 50s, 60s, beyond, have shoulder pain. And so you talk about how this fishing pole is kind of like created for people with shoulder pain so you can fish for longer. So there's just so many cool things. What I love the most about copywriting and marketing is I'm a very curious person. And I think that this is a field that really rewards curiosity. So it's really asking why again, peeling back layers of the onion, and then just like learning. I get to learn about so many things. So hopefully that's a good answer, but that's kind of what it looks like.
Okay, that's a great answer. And now, so everyone sees what's happening with the markets, and everyone's kind of thinks we're trending towards a recession, which looks like we are. How's that going to affect freelancers and digital marketing in general?
Yeah, I think honestly, it'll be some of the best opportunities for freelancers and digital marketers of their lifetimes. I mean, I can't tell you how many friends I know who are extremely successful, who started their businesses in 2008, 2009. Really, with a recession or even like even a severe one, like the economy doesn't shut down. It slows down, but it doesn't shut down. But people are still buying stuff and buying in droves. I mean, if you look at the GDP drop from 2008 to 2010, it was something like the US GDP contracted by like $500 billion or something like that. I'm gonna totally screw up these numbers, but they're not that far off. But it was like the total GDP was still like, it went from 17 trillion to 16.5 trillion, which is a recession because GDP didn't grow, it went down. But it's like, it was still $16.5 trillion. Like there was still a lot of, selling and economic activity happening. And so say it was double as bad as 2008 to 2010. Like, first of all, the GDP is way higher now than it was then. So it's still like, we're still further along, but you're still talking about just tens of trillions of dollars worth of economic activity. And then for businesses, really like now they really have to compete. It becomes more competitive for them. They have to differentiate even more. So having great marketing, hiring freelancers, copywriters, all those sorts of things is even more important. I'll give you a quick kind of really good microcosm of this is I do stuff in like the Web3 NFT space. I'm co-founder of a really cool NFT project and advisor to like another company in the blockchain. And which, by the way, part of it is like copywriting superpower. Like they're like, oh, you're good at messaging marketing. But also NFT sales are down like 97% from a year ago. But that's actually, I was just at a convention in Las Vegas earlier this week, and every person running these huge projects, venture backed, private equity backed, tons of money coming in. And they're all like, oh my God, we need copywriters. We need help with marketing. Because now that NFT, when it was the good fat days of NFTs for that period last year, people would just throw up a project and they could sell out and it was great. But now they're like, oh crap, we actually need to like market and have to really communicate what makes our project unique. And so now they're desperate for copywriters and people who know marketing. And I think that's like a microcosm of, when the fat times of the economy, people can skate by with mediocre products and services and all of that. But when things tighten up, you've really got to dial in your marketing, your messaging. So that's the time to invest. And the last thing I'll say is during the start of COVID, I looked into this with like, what are the companies that thrive during the Great Depression? Because in the very first couple of months of COVID, people, the stocks went down a lot. People were very nervous and scared. And what I found, there's all this cool research that essentially the companies that did really well during the Great Depression were the companies that kept advertising and basically pretended the depression didn't exist. So like Ford was number one, GM overtook Ford in market share. But if you look at it, Ford pulled back, stopped advertising, played really scared. GM kept spending money on advertising, kept pushing, and they blew past Ford. And there's all these other companies that did the same thing. So really, I just hope for businesses, they realize that, but really it's not the time to be scared. It's the time to actually be bold. And if you do that, you can be in an incredibly good position coming out of a recession.
It makes sense because if you're in a recession and your sales are down, you can cut costs in other places, but you've got to increase your advertising dollars in order to make up for the sales that you were having prior to the recession. So actually, a recession sounds like what you're saying could be a good thing for copywriters.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately for businesses who hire us, but only because it's the time to really refine a lot of things about your business. It's where you sort of tighten things up. If you become better because you have to, because the marketplace is more competitive, because consumer spending is down. Again, that so many companies are born in those recessions and depressions, and then end up having incredible, kind of explosive growth afterwards because they really take that time to dial in all their kind of core functions and things like that too.
Okay, now before I let you go, we've got a couple of things to take care of. You're going to help me with a subscriber giveaway. All right,
cool.
You're going to draw a name here. I'm going to give 3 of our subscribers, our regular subscribers. We've got, if I can say this right, Rosemary Fredejas. This is an interesting one. Lexi Zart, X-A-R-T. And then we've got Inspirational Therapy. These are their YouTube channel names. So, Stefan, I'm going to have you pick a number here in a second from 1 to 3 so you can't see. Let's choose a number, Stefan.
I'm going to go with 3.
You're the third person in a row to go with 3.
I just feeling 3 today.
The winner
Inspirational
is
Therapy. That's my guess.
Inspirational Therapy.
Psychic.
Right, were you peeking?
I swear to God, I was not. I have weird ESP moments. I swear, I'm like very good at roulette, for example. I just have weird moments where I get in the flow.
Okay, Inspirational Therapy. I will be in touch with you to PayPal you a $25 gift card or an Amazon gift card, whatever you prefer. Thank you so much. So, Stefan, before I let you go, you share us a few of your links that my viewers can go to, your Instagram, your website? What are those links?
Yeah, for sure. So on Instagram, it's at Stefan Georgi. Come give me a follow. Right now I'm posting a lot of reels. I do a reel almost every day and share something about copywriting, marketing, your network, all that. It's really, I'm enjoying it. I gotta get back to probably posting pictures every now and then too, but they're a blast. And then, for my website, the best thing is go to spg.fun/research. So SPG, my initials, Stefan Paul Georgi, spg.fun. So I want it to be easy to remember. And then /research. When you do that, you'll get the first module of my RMBC method, which is a copywriting methodology system and kind of course that I created. It sells for $1,000, but I don't even upsell you on the course or anything like that after you get it. I just took the research module because everyone can benefit from that. Because it's the right questions to ask to get really a deeper understanding of your prospect and your core market. Not just the basic stuff, but their emotional state, kind of psychological things. It's pretty neat and really can make a huge difference I don't know, help you to sell a lot more stuff. So yeah, it's yours, spg.fund/research, and you can go grab it.
Okay, guys, all the links are down below this video. Go ahead and go to his links now. Stefan, you are officially released from the Wolf Den. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Take care.